Trevs Hockey Show. I'm the Trev. It's too sweet. Anyway, with the Stadium Series fast approaching, and with this year's Heritage Classic jerseys just getting released before the weekend started, I figured now is as good a time as any. And this is take 4, by the way, and my second day at trying to do this. Trying being the key word. But anyway, now's as good a time as any to do something I've wanted to do probably since this channel started, because they've become one of my favorite things. I want to review the outdoor games. And what better proper way to do this than take it right back to the start. So today, in my first outdoor game review, I'm going to be talking about the 2003 Heritage Classic. Let's do it. So the first NHL Heritage Classic, or the first regular season outdoor game, depending on how you want to call it, was held November 22nd, 2003 in Edmonton, Alberta. And granted, the NHL had tried this previously in exhibition. The idea of doing it on a scale like this was a result of the success of the Cold War game between Michigan State and University of Michigan in 2001. This one here. And this was a regular season game for both the Edmonton Oilers and the Montreal Canadiens. The timing of it on the Oilers' end was absolutely great. It helped them celebrate two purposes. One, the first being the 25 years of playing in the NHL. And second, it was also to help commemorate 20 years since the Oilers' first Stanley Cup win in 1984. Now, being this was the inaugural outdoor game, it was a given that it would have the inaugural attendance record at 57,167 in attendance. However, it also held the distinction until very recently of being the coldest NHL game in history, at a minus 18 degrees Celsius with a minus 30 degrees Celsius wind chill, which translates to minus 22 Fahrenheit. Like I said, that was very recently broken, so we'll discuss that much later, the further down we get. Now, I'm not going to spend any time going over the Megastars alumni game, which in itself was merely an exhibition game. So with that, let's go over the rosters. Now here's your Canadiens roster, captained by Saku Koivu, Matthew Garon, 1 of your goalies, but not your starter, obviously. Craig Rivet was on the team. Jose Theodore is your starting goaltender. Mike Ribeiro, do you remember Mike Ribeiro? Yeah, I'm sure we all do. Joe Juneau. And head coach at the time was Claude Julien. Before the days of having elaborate throwbacks, the Canadiens were wearing their vintage jerseys that season, so they just wore those, which is just a vintage version of their jerseys. And here is your Oilers roster. Conklin was your starting goalie, captained by Jason Smith. George Larocque, that's another name you'll want to remember. Hemsky. They were coached by Craig McTavish. And the Oilers also wore a vintage jersey. So the first period, you thought was going to be relatively quiet. No goals, short shifts. And if it weren't for Corey Cross drawing the first penalty in outdoor game history at 13:49 for high sticking, it would have been a relatively blank score sheet. But that, in a nutshell, was the first period. Second period, though, started out pretty quickly. So Richard Zednik scored his 5th of the season at 39 seconds from Patrice Brisebois and Michael Ryder to give Montreal the 1-0 lead. And there was your first goal in outdoor game history, belonging to Richard Zednik of the Montreal Canadiens. and also probably the quickest start of the period at 39 seconds. So those are nice things to have. About 9:31, Ryan Smith takes a hooking penalty, and Montreal makes them pay for it. Yannick Perreault scored his 6th on the season on the power play from Craig Rivet and Mike Ribeiro at 10:53 for a 2-0 Montreal lead. First power play goal in outdoor game history. Chad Kilger took a hooking penalty at 11:42, and if Edmonton only stayed on had scored 4 seconds earlier, it may have been a trade-off on power play goals, as Eric Brewer scored his first goal of the season from Jarrett Stoll and Steve Staios at 13:45 to bring the game within 1, 3 seconds after Kilger's penalty expired. And that was your second period. Third period now. And again, Montreal starts out early as Yannick Perreault scored his 2nd of the game, 7th on the season, from Nicholas Sundstrom and Craig Rivet at 2:22 to give Montreal a 3-1 lead. At the 12:58 mark, Montreal's Francois Bouillon and Edmonton's Jason Chimera both take roughing minors, which is okay because Edmonton managed to get back on the board, as Jarrett Stoll managed to score his 4th on the season from Steve Staios at 13:06, but Montreal changed all that a minute 12 later. As Richard Zednik scored his 2nd of the game, which ended up being the game winner, from Sheldon Souray at 14:18 to give Montreal the 4-2 lead. The Oilers, however, did try to make a push, and 39 seconds later, Steve Staios scored his 3rd of the season and managed to get his 3rd point of the game from Ag Dvorak and Zach Stortini at 14:57 to bring the score up to 4-3. But it was all Theodore after that, managing to keep the doors shut to give Montreal 2 points in the standings and be the first team to win a regular season outdoor game. And that's how that one went. Montreal 4, Edmonton 3. It's your statistical records for outdoor games now that we have one under the way. Or under the belt, sorry. It's your goaltender stats. And your scoring leaders. Keep in mind, I have not done the spell check. That's why you see all the red squiggly lines. Staios is your outdoor game point leader for the moment with 3 points. So I'll give you some really quick thoughts. I can vouch for the temperature. Being I'm from Edmonton, of course, I would know, yes, it was that cold. That whole week was that cold. I think Thursday, Friday were the worst, and this game being a Saturday, if minus 22 Fahrenheit was the worst, or at least not the worst of a Thursday or Friday result, that should tell you how cold that week was. But an amazing game nonetheless. And like I said on the onset of the video, it was after this game that I realized outdoor games were a thing I really enjoyed watching. And I mean, a lot of people will say, yeah, now the novelty's worn off and they've saturated it. But you know what? We all still watch it. It's still a yearly thing. So that's a great thing. And when I say it's a yearly thing, obviously I'm talking about the outdoor game itself, not so much the Heritage Classic. The Heritage Classic has taken sometimes years to get to us. I think the next Heritage Classic after this was 2011. But in between we had the Winter Classic start up, and that's where we're going next. So, if you like what I'm doing here, stay tuned. I'll keep more coming. So those are another one of Trev's hockey shows. Well, thank you for tuning in. Don't think I don't appreciate the gesture, especially if you're right here. It's a great thing for both of us. How could you go wrong? How could I go wrong? Right? It's all good. So, since you're here, give me that like. If you haven't yet, that red button that says subscribe all over it, hit that thing. Stay up to date with all the content I'm putting out. My lone social in the description down below. Moving forward, as far as the Heritage Classic's concerned, as I said, that's 2011 when that happens again. So, in the meantime, we have 4 Winter Classic games that we'll be going over before the next Heritage Classic. So as far as outdoor games is concerned, 2008 is the next one we're talking about. But either way, in the meantime, and in between time, be looking for more videos from Trev. Later.